Dear friends, welcome back to Data Analytics Talks. This is our 10th session under the Azure Data Engineer Learning Series. In this session, we are going to focus on Azure SQL. We will see how to create Azure SQL Server, how to create Azure SQL Server database, how to populate data in the Azure SQL database, and how to connect to this Azure SQL from SQL Management Studio, and we will see running SQL script against Azure SQL Server. Let's go to the portal.azure.com where you can create your Azure SQL Server. So when you come to the portal.azure.com, you will be seeing all the resources that you have already created. So you can see some of the resources which I have already created. We have a virtual machine, we have a resource group, and these are some of the resources which I created for previous demonstrations. And you can also see some of the resources which are available, which you can make use of, which you can create. So today I am going to create a resource which is SQL database. So it is quite easy to create a SQL database. What do you need to do? You have to click on this icon. You can provision a SQL server and a database. Of course, you will see some more description about the SQL databases and the available Microsoft trainings on SQL Server, etc. on this pop-up. But I'm not interested in that. But I would be interested to create a new SQL database for me today. So when I click on the create icon, create button, I am introduced with a wizard. In Microsoft Portal, you can see every resource is created using a kind of wizard, right? A wizard is a step-by-step process where you provide the basic information and you can review and create or provision your resource. So similarly, I am going to create a SQL database, and we have multiple tabs: basic, network, security, additional settings, tags. Then finally, you can review and create. So in this case, you need to choose a subscription, and of course, subscription could be pay as you go, free subscription, or Visual Studio Enterprise. Then you need to choose a resource group. Already we have seen what is a resource group. It is a boundary where you put all your resources for a specific project or specific initiative. That is a resource group. Then you need to give a database name. You need to understand that every database is created under a SQL server. So you can only create a database under a server. So if the server is not existing, you need to create a server. Okay. Then then you need to say whether it should be elastic pool or non-elastic pool. Then you need to mention the workload environment as development or production. Then we have the compute storage configurations. Then what should be the backup strategy, whether it should be geo-redundant, locally redundant, and so on, right? So we need to choose that. Let's start with choosing or giving the required details. So I will start with giving a SQL database name. So I will start with that's SQL DB. That name is available. Then I should provide a server, but I have not created a server. So I have to create a new SQL server first. So let me click on the server. I should give a SQL server name that is, let me give a DATS SQL server. Yeah, it's available. So I will be creating the server into East US. And of course, what is authentication method? I can go for both SQL or Microsoft Entra authentication. I can go for Microsoft Entra only authentication. Then I can use SQL authentication. Let me use a SQL authentication. And I should provide a SQL Server admin login and password. I can give a admin login, which is that SQL Server admin, something like that. Then let me provide a password. Per password. So we have both the server and login and password given. So I click OK. So what will happen? It will create a SQL server for me. Let me click OK. And the SQL server is chosen, which I just created. Then I will go whether I should need a elastic pool or non-elastic pool. I choose no. Then my environment is development because it is cheaper. And the computer storage is standard series. And you can choose different types of tier. And of course, it becomes costly if you go for higher end. So you can go for provisioned and serverless. Provision means a compute resources are pre-allocated, built per hour based on the core configured, but serverless is compute resources are auto-scaled, built per second based on core used. So there is a difference between provisioned and serverless. So I will go for serverless because I don't want to pay so much. Then what's the hardware? I am just going to use a standard series, and you can choose Gen 4, then Premium, then M series, then DC series, and so on. So I just chose the standard one. The max score is 1. If I increase that, of course, we can see the price also is getting increased here, right? So I just go for 1 because I am doing just a demo. Okay. So then I will apply. Then how should be having the redundant backup? So I just need a local redundant. I don't need any geo redundant. So we have already seen what is geo redundant, what is zone redundant, what is locally redundant. So the cheapest one is the locally redundant. I choose. Then I can review. So what is the cost of this? Cost is 375.71 INR per month. Okay. So I just review and create. Something is required. What is that? A resource group is okay. I go on the resource group, review, then it's all good. Create. So the deployment is happening. It takes few minutes to complete the deployment. So once the server is created, it will create a database. So it's creating a database now. So remember that when you create this database, the database is empty. So the server creation is complete and we have the server name. That's SQL server.database.windows.net. And this is the database name. So we have a server and a database. And you can connect to this server from our SQL Management Studio. And it is showing the resource group and the status is online. Then where is the location is created and you have the subscription and all these details are shown in this screen. Okay. And as every Azure resource, you have all these configurations or the features available in the Azure portal. So you can change the compute storage, you can get the connection string, you can do the diagnostics, and you can do query editor, okay, and you can do the replicas, and you can do Azure Synapse link. All these things are possible from this navigation, okay. So what is lacking here is like when I create this database, and this database is created as empty database. So, but when you can also create a database with some sample data. So how do we do that? So we can go back again and with some data. So let me just go to do that. I can create a database. It's like that SQL DB with data. Again, the same server. I will be adding some data also. Okay. So that one, then this also again a development environment. It's also locally redundant. Then I go to the next tab. It is showing me some options, but I will leave it as default. And let me go to the next page. This again related to security. And we go to the next page, the additional settings. And you can say that start with a blank database, restore from the backup, or select sample data to populate your database. So I need to have some sample data, but I don't have a backup. If I have a backup file, I can choose a backup file here so that I can restore it. Anyway, I need some sample data, so there is an option to choose Adventure Works LT, Light Adventure Works. Let's click on this. So what will happen? So it will load the sample light version of the Adventure Works data. Okay, so I have chosen that. So then let me go to next. So no tag is optional. Then I have, these are the configurations that I have selected, and okay, of course, this will be created with some data. Okay, so I have the name also with this. So I create this. Again, this time it won't create the server. It is directly creating my database. So to summarize what we have done so far. So we went to the portal.azure.com, that is Azure portal. Then we created a SQL server, and a SQL server has a specific URL, and also we created two databases. So what's the name of the server? So it is that's SQL server.database.windows.net. So you need to understand how the links are formed in server for a SQL Server database. And of course, we are authenticating using SQL authentication, and we have a username and a password. There are two ways that we can connect to our Azure database. One is using Azure Data Studio, and the second one is using SQL Server Management Studio. So next we are going to see how we were connecting to Azure SQL using SQL Server Management Studio as well as Azure Data Studio. So we'll also refer how to install both of them in our system. Both the tools are free. You can download from Microsoft site. So I will also show you how to install if you don't have these tools in your laptop. So in order to verify if you have installed SQL Server Management Studio, you can search in your program files, typing SQL Server Management Studio. If the program is installed, and you can see a pop-up coming up, but if that is not installed, you can quickly install SQL Server Management Studio from Microsoft site. I can show you how to download and install SQL Server Management Studio quickly. Let's go to the download center. So we will open our browser. You can search for SQL Server Management Studio download. So you can go to the SQL Server download page and you can see all about download SQL Server Management Studio. There are different versions. I can go for SQL Server Management Studio 19.1. It's a free download. You click on the download. It's downloading quickly. It takes a few seconds to download the package. So once it is downloaded, you can install in your laptop. Let's wait for a few seconds. So the download is complete. So you can open the file. So you will see that ssms-setup.enu. Just double click. And by default, the path is assigned. I don't want to change it. You can click on install. Again, it is quite easy. So remember, when you install Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, it also installs Azure Data Studio. So we can see both options. The setup is complete. All the specified components have been installed successfully. As I mentioned, it is quite easy to install Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio with Azure Data Studio. But remember that we have not installed SQL Server in this laptop. It is just an interface to connect to the Azure SQL. So let's explore, or let's try to connect to our created Azure database from our SQL Server Management Studio. For that, we need the server URL and the database name. Let's connect. So all is set. Let's go to our SQL Server Management Studio. You can find that under the apps menu. It is a SQL Server Management Studio. And let's click on SQL Server Management Studio. It's coming up. Most of you must be familiar with this SQL Server Management Studio. If not, let's have our first tour of SQL Server Management Studio today. So it has come up. You can see that what is the server type. I am connecting to database engine. We have other services called analysis service, reporting service, integration services, and Azure SSIS integration runtime. But today I am interested in database engine. Every database will have a server name. If it is on-prem, you will have a server name. And if it is on cloud or Azure, you will have a server name. I have copied the server name from the server. It is DATS SQL Server Database Windows.net. And you can choose the authentication type, whether you are going for Windows authentication, SQL Server authentication, Azure Active Directory Universal with MFA. It is more integrated with Azure AD, then Active Directory Password, Azure Directory Integrated, Active Directory Service Principal. We have Active Directory Managed Identity. Then finally, we have the Azure Active Directory Default. So I am interested to go for SQL Server authentication because I have a username and password. So okay, I have a username. It's that SQL Server admin, and I have a password. Let me remember my password for the future. So let me click on the connect. So what is it saying? It is saying that an instance specific error occurred while establishing a connection to SQL Server. The connection was denied since deny public network access is set to yes. This is a problem that we are always having when we are connecting to an Azure SQL. If you have not enabled public access to your public SQL server, you will have this problem. So we need to enable public access in the Azure portal first before we connect to the Azure SQL. Let's do that first. So what we need to do is go to your Azure SQL server, then choose the networking. There you have a public access, private access, and connectivity option. So public access was disabled, and I have selected network to be allowed to this Azure SQL server. So I can add my IP address to the role I have added. I can save this. I've done the save. Okay, let's try it again now. What? Yes, I'm able to connect now because I have added a role for this IP address. Okay, so this is the interface for Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. Of course, you have connected to a server, Azure SQL Server, and you are able to see that's SQL with the data and that SQL database. So we have created two databases, one with the data and other without data. This is our example how you are able to connect and browse your Azure SQL Server using SQL Management Studio. So let me open Azure Data Studio. It is a web interface. As you see, it is quite simple. Using this, you can create a connection. You can run a query. You can create a notebook. You can build a notebook using native notebooks editor, then deploy to server. This is fully integrated with the DevOps platforms. Okay, so let me start with creating a new connection. It has to connect to Azure SQL Server. You can connect to, I am connecting to SQL Server. Okay, and how I am connecting, I have a parameter. So what is the server name? I should provide the server name. Let me give the server name here. And I am having different authentication means. We can using Windows Active Directory, and the second one is the type of authentication. You can use SQL login, Windows login, or Azure Active Directory MFA support. I will be using the SQL Server. I should give the username, password, and let me see that I given password. I would like to remember that and to choose a database name if. So I am able to see all my databases in this tool. I have created two databases, one with the data, one without data, and I have a master database by default. So what are the actions? I can manage, I can create a new notebook, I can make a new query. How do I manage? Click on that manage. Here, I'm able to see all the tables in that database. Remember that I have chosen a Adventure Works Lite database as a sample for this database, so I can see all the tables. So if I want to make a query, I can right click and you can script as create, select the top 1000. So it automatically creates a script for me. So select top 1000 from address. So yeah, this is quite interesting and very easy. Remember, the first tool that you can use to connect to your Azure SQL database is Azure Data Studio. Thank you very much for watching this video. This was a practical session on Microsoft SQL Azure. So we have together created our SQL Azure databases and we tried to connect to them using both Azure Data Studio and SQL Server Management Studio. I also tried to explain how to download these tools and install in your system. If you have any feedback on these videos, please make your comments below. If you find my videos useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.